Alrighty, legends. I can't believe we're already into fractions, one of my favorite maths topics. First things first, to start us off, we're going to have a look at this learning 2, and we are learning to find simple fractions of quantities where the answer is a whole number. If I break that learning intention down, simple fractions are fractions such as a half, a third, a quarter is quite simple, and even 3/4. Working with these sort of fractions is what we are looking at. So finding simple fractions are these sort of fractions right here. The denominators at the bottom there, if you've watched the wrap video, are quite low. And at the top there as well, they're quite standard numbers. They're not going to go all airy-fairy and ask you to find 5/26 of a number. So now we've got our simple fractions. We need to figure out what they mean by quantities and figure out the whole number that they are. So I've got some 2048 cupcakes going on here at the bottom, and that's going to set our learning up for today. All right, let's zoom in on this guy right here. The quantity of the cupcakes, yes, I know that some of them are worth more than others, is 16. You can see that there are 4 rows and there are 4 columns as well. So that would be 4 times 4, which is 16 cupcakes. All right, so the quantity of cupcakes we've got right now is 16. So when you're saying find simple fractions of quantities, the quantities we're going to work with at the moment is 16. All right, now when I ask for finding a half of this quantity, of course a half is splitting these up into 2 equal parts. You can see the half there, 2 equal parts, and finding 1/2. So how many is in 1/2? If I'm going to split up 16 cupcakes, I'm going to go straight slap bang down the middle with my good old blue pen. And of course, that means I've got 2 equal parts. I've got the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And if I split up 16 into 2 equal parts, or half, then the answer would be 8. Perfect. All right, now, same again here. I'm going to ask you to find 1/4 of 16. Now, again, the quantity we're using is 16. We've still got 16 cupcakes here. And to find 1/4 is we're splitting it up into 4 equal parts. All right, so again, I've done a half, and I'm just going to split up again now. So you can see I've got 4 equal groups. I'm going to quickly circle them. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 of them are equal. There's the same amount of cupcakes in each. And the job of you is to find out 1/4 of 16. And you can see very clearly that in each quarter there are 4. All right, so 1/4 of 16, you can clearly see that there are 4 cupcakes in each quarter. To be truly honest, that helps us with this next one as well. If I was going to ask you to find 3/4 of a number, then of course you're splitting it up into quarters still, 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. But this time I'm looking at all 3 out of the 4 to work out what 3/4 of 16 are. So 1/4 is 4, 2/4 is 8, and 3/4 would be 12. So 3/4 of 16 is good old 12. Okay, because of course I've split up into quarters, and 3 of those quarters added together would equal 12. This time I'm going to bring this guy to the front, and we're going to move him to the front as well to make sure we can see him. So the idea behind this guy is we really need to figure out how we're going to break this one up before we answer the question. First things first, we've got 12 cupcakes this time, so that's the quantity we're using. 12 is our quantity, and again, we're finding a simple fraction of this quantity where the answer is a whole number. So I guarantee you all the questions I ask here will be a whole number. This time, I'd like you to sort of shout them out or predict what I'm going to say, and even if you want to pause the video to take a moment to have a think about what I'm going to say for each of these. First of all, we're going to do a half of 12. So here's my 12 in front of me. Half, I'm going to do down the middle. And once I've split it into 2 equal parts, which is exactly what a half is, we can clearly see that a half of 12 is 6. And we know that 12 divided by 2 is 6 as well. Keep the guessing game going. We're going to do the quarters now. So we're going to split them into 4 equal groups. And hopefully you've already shouted out the answer. But you can clearly see that the 4 equal groups there, 1, 2, 3, 4, all have 3 lovely cupcakes. Oh, I do like that green one. In there, so therefore a quarter of 12 is 3. And we know that 12 divided by 4 is 3. Similarly, we can add those quarters together to find out how many 3 quarters of 12 is. 1, 2, 3 quarters there. Add them together, 3, 6, and 9. So that's going to be 9 because each quarter has 3, and I want 3 of those, so that's going to be 9. Now, the final question is going to ask you to give me a third of 12. Now, this is a tough one because I haven't already done a third. Hopefully, you can work this out as soon as I move this across. Hopefully, you can figure it out as we go. What is a third of 12? All right, yeah, hopefully you work that out. A third of 12 is splitting these into 3 equal parts. I'm going to do it in green across here. 3 equal parts. And you can see my 3 equals. There's my first, my second, and my third. So a third of 12 would be 4. Lovely. Now, I've actually got rid of all of my 2048 cupcakes, and it might actually give you some in the questions to do very shortly. But I feel like we don't need the pictures to help us here. Mathematically speaking, we can work through this problem quite simply by having a look at the process. All right? So when we say a half of 12, we're actually saying 1/2 multiplied by 12. Okay, because a half of 12 is 6, we need to work out how a half times 12 equals 6. All right, so we're going to split this up. A fraction is almost like a division. All right, that middle line in here is like a division sign. Okay, I know it doesn't look like it, but really it is. All right, so a half is simply saying 1 divided by 2. A quarter is saying 1 divided by 4. 3 quarters is 3 divided by 4. And when you do that on a calculator, you'll actually see decimal numbers that relate to these. So 1 divided by 2 will give you 0.5, which we know to be 1/2. Okay? When it comes to finding a fraction of a number, we're going to work it just the same way. Okay? So I'm going to do 1 multiplied by 12, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. Almost like a BIDMAS equation. All right? So when I do 1 multiplied by 12, that gives me 12. Makes sense. And then I'm going to do 12 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2, we already know, is 6. Well, that's all well and good. And to be truly honest, you can work through that every single time. But I want to go over to this other side here and do 3 quarters, holy, of 12. 3 quarters of 12. 3 quarters times by 12 is what it's asking us. 3 quarters of 12 is the same as saying 3 quarters multiplied by 12. All right. So if we're working in the same situation here, we're going to do the numerator multiplied by 12 first, and then divide all of that by 4, and hopefully that will give us 9. Let's have a go. 12 is our number. 3 is what we're multiplying it by. 3 times 12 equals 12, 24, 36. And then we're just going to do 36 divided by 4, and that slash represents a divide, similar to a fraction, you know, that fraction has that divide sign in it as well. 36 divided by 4 is equal to 9 as well. Lovely jubbly. Here's a question for you. Let's track back to our lovely cupcake solution. Let's pretend now that we have 20 cupcakes. All right, that's our quantity. 20 delicious, lovely cupcakes. And we need to find 3 quarters of that quantity. 3 quarters of 20. Okay? Can you, before I tell you the answer, have a think about 3 quarters of 20 and what that might be? All right, hopefully you've paused and had a think. I'm going to go through it right now, so if you haven't, make sure you do so. Okay, let's work it out like a fraction problem we've done earlier. Rather than having images to work through, we can do this mathematically. 3 quarters is the same as saying 3 times 20, and then all of that divided by 4. All right? 3 times 20, well, I already know that 3 times 20 equals, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, 60. And then 60 divided by 4 is 15. So 3/4 of 20 is 15. And I can work that out quickly because I know that 1/4 of 20 is 5, 2/4 of 20 is 10, which is half of 20, and 3/4 therefore is 15. Hopefully that's the answer you got. Have a look at the Google form. Would love to get you on board with this task, and super keen to see how you go with some of the questions. I'll put some 2048 cupcakes on there as well, just for enjoyment. And good luck, team. Thank you.